All right, councillors. So good afternoon, everyone. My name's Vivian McCarthy, Shire President, and I'll be presiding member for the meeting this afternoon. I'll begin by acknowledging the continuing connection of Aboriginal people to country, culture and community, including traditional custodians of this land, the Wadundji and Kaniang people of the Noongar Nation, paying respects to elders past and present. I declare the meeting open at 3 p.m. and welcome the public gallery, including past President Angelo Legiudice. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded in accordance with Council Policy EM CP2. Members of the public are reminded that no other visual or audio recording of the meeting by any other means is allowed without permission. Every endeavour is made to only record those who are actively participating in the meeting. However, loud noises or comments may be picked up in the recording. Attending today, we have Deputy President Councillor Alex Purick, Councillor Grant Patrick, Councillor Amanda McNabb is attending via live stream, and Councillor Anita Lindeman, Councillor Tyler Hall and Councillor John Bailey. Councillor McNabb, would you like to read out your declaration?
Absolutely. Pursuant to Section 14CA5 of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, I, Amanda McNabb, declare that I am situated in a location where I can maintain confidentiality throughout the duration of this meeting.
Thank you, Councillor McNabb. And the staff present today is our CEO, Chief Executive Officer Nick O'Connor, Executive Manager Corporate Lauren Clifford, Director of Finance and Corporate Colin Young, Manager Development Services Michelle Dennis, Administration Officer Corporate Services Samantha Farquhar, and Manager Projects Finance.
Manager Financial Projects.
Stuart.
Project Manager. Finance Project Manager.
And it's Stuart, and your last name is going to come to me in a minute, Stuart. Eaton.
From Bunbury.
I'm very sorry, Stuart. Okay. So welcome to everyone here in the public gallery, and welcome to those who are attending or participating via live stream. Now, councillors, there's always this need to suspend clause 8.2, members to rise, from the Meeting Procedures Local Laws 2017. This is to support the quality of the sound on the live stream. So would councillors like to move that we suspend clause 8.2? Councillor Patrick, seconded Councillor Purick. All in favour? At 2.1, we have apologies from Director of Operations Roscoe Marshall. We have no approved leave of absences, but councillors, do we have at 2.3 any applications for leave of absence? Thank you. Item 3, I've got here a note about the elections. Do you want me to read it? Okay. The Shire of Donnybrook Balingup is holding an extraordinary election by postal vote on Thursday the 26th of March to fill 2 vacancies in the Office of Councillors. Election packages will soon be sent out to all electors on the local government electoral roll. Before election day, you may hand deliver your postal voting papers during business hours from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Shire of Donnybrook Balingup Administration Office in 1 Bentley Street, Donnybrook. Or you can place your completed papers in the post, but you will need to do this early to ensure your packages are received by the returning officer before 6 p.m. on election day, Thursday the 26th of March. Moving on to item 4, declarations of interest. Division 6, Subdivision 1 of the Local Government Act 1995 states that care should be taken by all councillors, committee members and staff to ensure that a financial or impartiality interest is declared and that they refrain from voting on any matter which is considered to come within the ambit of the Act. And we have a few this afternoon. Councillor Tyler Hall has declared a proximity interest in relation to item 9.1.2 as the lot is next door to where he resides. Councillor John Bailey declared a proximity interest in relation to item 9.3.4 as he owns the property that adjoins the location of the proposed playground. Councillor Amanda McNabb declared a financial interest in relation to item 9.3.6 as her husband holds membership shares in the Donnybrook Bendigo Bank branch. Councillor McNabb declared a proximity interest in relation to item 9.2.5 as she resides on Thompson Brook Road, which is included in the Forward Roadworks plan for upgrades. Councillor McNabb also has a family membership at Brookhampton Hall Progress Association, and Councillor McNabb's partner is Treasurer of the committee and is a group leader of the Scout Hall. Both the Brookhampton Hall and the Scout Halls are listed for capital upgrades in the Forward Works plans. Councillor Alex Purick declared an indirect financial interest in relation to item 9.2.5 as his family own property on Brookhampton Road, and he's also a member of the Brookhampton Progress Association. Councillor Purick also declared an indirect financial interest in relation to item 9.3.6 as his family hold Donnybrook Bendigo Bank membership shares. Okay, moving on to public question time. We have no responses to previous public questions that were taken on notice. Are there any public questions from the gallery? No. So moving into presentations. 6.1, petitions. A petition was received on the 20th of February 2026 and can be found in attachment 6.1.1. The petition is to request the CEO, President and Council of the Shire of Donnybrook-Balinga to make available suitable vacant Shire spaces or facilities to provide safe and sheltered sleeping accommodation for people experiencing homelessness. Would councillors like to move a motion to acknowledge the receipt of the petition? Councillor Lindeman and Councillor Purick. Councillor Lindeman, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, but I will. I just appreciate that the community take interest in homelessness and that they're prepared to get out and get a petition going, and for them to present it, I think that's fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Purick?
Not much to add, but yeah, great to see the community driving such causes, especially potentially committing funds towards the cause. So yeah, great to see some people putting their money where their mouth is. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you, Councillor Purick. Would anyone like to speak to the motion? Else? CEO?
So probably just procedurally, councillors, and just for those watching on at home, yeah, obviously we're here to receive this petition today and obviously the next item as well, but officers will actually prepare a formal response and table that at the next OCM, so just tying off that communication loop for next OCM.
Thank you, CEO. Okay, so would councillors, if there's no one else who wants to speak to the motion, write a reply? Would councillors like to move a motion to acknowledge the receipt of the petition? Sorry, not move the motion. Who would like to vote in favour of the acknowledgement? My bad. Okay, that's carried. Okay, and a second petition was received on the 24th of February 2026, can be found in attachment 6.12. The petition is to request that the Shire reject the pine plantation proposal at the Nogarup town site. Would councillors like to move a motion to acknowledge the receipt of the petition? Councillor Purick, and seconded Councillor Lindeman. Are you speaking to that?
Yeah, just I am pleased to see the community moving forward with the correct procedures in submitting this petition, and I'm looking forward to seeing the response from the administration.
Thank you. Councillor Lindeman?
Oh, no, once again, just happy to receive the petition. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to the motion? Okay. Councillor Lindeman, Councillor Purick, right to reply? Okay, all in favour? Carried. We have no deputations, no presentations or deputations, and no delegate reports. Moving on to item, never has an item this one, adoption by exception. Okay, we have the following items will be adopted by exception, or we'll move a motion to adopt these items by exception. I'll just read them through for the benefit of those who are viewing via live stream. It's item 7.1.1, Ordinary Council Meeting held 17th of December 2025. Item 7.1.2, Annual General Meeting of Electors held on the 4th of February 2026. Item 9.1.1, Scheme Amendment number 15 to the Shire of Donnybrook-Balingup Local Planning Scheme number 7. Item 9.2.1, Schedule of Accounts Paid as at the 31st of December 2025. Item 9.2.2, Schedule of Accounts Paid as at the 31st of January 2026. Item 9.2.3, the Monthly Financial Report for the period ending the 31st of December 2025.
Just 9.2.7, Councillor Purick has asked that been to be removed, so it is in the list.
Okay. So 9.2.7 is not included. The community consultation draft community engagement framework will be tabled, will be dealt with by council on its own. Just a little late coming in. Okay, 9.3.3, rescind council policy EXE/CP9, communications and social media, and adopt council policies EXE CP13, social media, and EXE CP14, official communications. And 9.3.7, workforce plan, progress update and interim structure. Now, would councillors like to move to adopt the items en bloc and resolve in accordance with each of the executive recommendations? Councillor Lindeman and Councillor Patrick. Is anyone going to speak against this motion? We'll take that as carried. Moving on to we'll go through item 7 because they're on block, into item 8, which is reports of committees, and we have none. Moving into item 9, reports of officers, and 9.1, Director of Operations. At 9.1.1, we have scheme amendment number 15 to the Shire of Donnybrook, number 15 to the Shire of Donnybrook-Balingup Local Planning Scheme number 7. I apologise. I don't have that one noted. I've got 1.2. Get that out again.
Two is the next one, that's another councillor.
Yeah. Okay, 9.1.2, develop an application P25034 for 10 grouped dwellings on lot 9500 Kelly Road, Donnybrook. And Councillor Hall has expressed a proximity interest and will be leaving the room at 3:14 p.m. Councillors, would someone like to move the executive recommendation? As it stands, with conditions and advice. Councillor Lindeman and Councillor Patrick. Councillor Lindeman.
Yep, sure. Just that I support the officer's recommendation. I see this as an opportunity for our shire to positively impact the housing shortage with these unique and individual small home alternatives, being 1 and 2 bedrooms. We're moving aside to help private enterprise pick up the tab and do the work that previous governments have failed to address. Thinking differently will help a crisis that has no place in a rich country such as ours. I'm enthused by our Shire's compassion, understanding and flexibility in looking at how we help people realise a basic human right whilst ensuring practical and regulatory requirements are met. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Patrick?
Thank you. Not much more to add other than really appreciate the administration's work in acknowledging the community feedback and some of the recommendations that have been added in to support that, particularly around the surfacing of the road and the dust control measures. So thank you for the administration for that. But again, yep, really support this measure. I think it's important that we recognise that not everyone wants or needs a 4x2 on a big block. So yeah, it's a really positive step forward.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone like to speak against the recommendation? And for? Councillor Purick?
Thank you. Yes, I am supportive of this motion, particularly with the change from the short-term rental agreement to more long-term rentals. Housing has been identified as a priority of our community, and like Councillor Lindeman said, this is thinking outside the box, and I'm hopeful that this development will help remediate the issue, noting that there were some concerns from the community, particularly around the dust and traffic on the roads. So it's a positive thing to see the sealing of the internal road as well as that section of Kelly Road. Heartened as well, condition 17 regarding the landscaping. So it is good to see that landscaping has been considered in the amenity of the site.
Thank you, Councillor Purick. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Thank you. We'll put that to vote. Those in favour? Oh, sorry, right of reply to Councillor Lindeman. And we'll put that to vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 9.1.3, Policy Review, Council Policy FIN/CP4, Purchasing. Councillors, we need an absolute majority for this item. Would councillors like to move the executive recommendation that Council notes the review of Council Policy FIN/CP4, Purchasing, and adopts the draft? Councillor Hall, and seconded Councillor Purick. Councillor Hall, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you. Nothing to say on that.
Councillor Purick? Would anyone like to speak against this motion? You're happy to take that as carried? Okay, carried. Moving on to item 9.2.5. Just a moment. Did you guys record when Councillor Hall came back in? Okay. Now, 9.2.5 is the annual review of the asset management plans and financial informing plans, and Councillor Hall and Councillor McNabb and Councillor Purick all have expressed have declared an interest. No, sorry, not Councillor Hall. Councillor McNabb and Councillor Purick. And Councillor Purick is leaving the room. And how do we...
So I think procedurally, I think we'll mute the conversation from our end.
Yes.
Can we do that, Admin Officer? Yep.
Okay. So for the purpose of those viewing, We've now muted Councillor McNabb, who has expressed or who has declared her interest. Okay. Councillors, do we have someone to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Bailey, and seconded, Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Bailey, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
No. Councillor Lindeman? No. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? All in favour? We'll take that as carried. Thank you. 5 with the absolute majority? Yep. Okay. And we have Councillor Purick coming back into the room at 3:20 and unmuting Councillor McNabb. Item 9.2.6 is also an absolute majority, councillors. Would someone like to move the executive recommendation that council adopts the 25-26 budget review as presented in attachment 9.2.61 for the period of 1st July 25 to the 31st of December 2025 and amend the budget accordingly? Councillor Patrick. Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Patrick, would you like to speak to the motion?
Look, I don't have a lot to say, as talked about in the agenda briefing. As a council, we've had a lot of workshopping across the budget and the other implications surrounding it. Appreciate the work the administration's done in preparation. But yeah, I don't really have anything to add, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor Lindeman? Nope. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Right of reply, Councillor Bailey? Sorry, no, Grant. Sorry, Grant, one down. Okay. All those in favour? Thanks. Moving to item 9.2.7. Community consultation, draft community engagement framework. And Councillor Purick, no, that's an amendment coming through, sorry. Would someone like to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Purick? And would someone like to second it? Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Purick?
Yeah, look, I am supportive of this draft community engagement framework. Our community has identified that consultation and engagement is a priority of theirs, and that perhaps as an exercise historically, the Shire has struggled with it. It's great to see the work being put in to this draft framework, and that I see that as the administration receiving that feedback from the community. I'm hopeful that this draft framework will pave the way for our Shire to be a leading local government in our region for engagement and consultation. So yeah, it's a positive step.
Thank you. Councillor Lindeman? Would anyone else like to speak for the motion? Sorry, against the motion? For? Okay. We'll take that as carried. Moving on to item 9.3.1. Again, councillors, this is an absolute majority decision. It's the post-election review for Council Policy EXE/CP5, attendance at events and functions. Would someone like to move the executive recommendation that Council notes the review of Council Policy EXE/CP5, attendance at events and functions, and adopts the changes as outlined in the body of this report? Councillor Purick. Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Purick, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, I think this will improve transparency and accountability within our local government. So, yep, well done.
Thank you. Councillor Lindemann?
And the same, I think it's important that we have that transparency and it's on the record. Thanks.
Okay. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Would anyone like to speak for the motion? We'll consider that carried. Oh, it's actually, no, it's absolute majority, so we'll put that to vote. All in favour? Thank you. Moving on to item 9.3.2, another absolute majority. The post-election review elected member induction, training and professional development policy. Would councillors like to move the executive recommendation that council notes the review of council policy EMCP1, elected member induction, training and professional development, and adopts the policy inclusive of the amendments as outlined in the body of this report? Councillor Patrick and Councillor Purick. Councillor Patrick?
Thank you. Look, not much to say other than I think it's really good to have a policy in place that holds councillors accountable, both from upholding their obligation as a councillor as well as ensuring that money isn't being wasted through training not being completed. So I think it's good to have this policy as a bit of a safeguard for the ratepayers.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor Purick?
Yep, just echoing what Councillor Patrick said, but also to add on a broader sense that I've personally found the training incredibly informative and it has given me the confidence to perform my duties as a councillor. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Purick. Would anyone like to speak against the recommendation? And for?
I'll speak
Councillor
for it
Lindemann?
just, yes, thank you. I'll speak for it just because I have attended several trainings, possibly not compulsory for me, but you always walk away with more information, and I think that that makes me a more competent person to serve my community.
Thank you. I'll also add to that. It's also a great opportunity to build, to network, I suppose, is a bad word, but to build rapport with your fellow councillors and understand, for example, our meeting procedures, working through those together is always very helpful. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Patrick? Right reply? Okay, we'll put that to vote as an absolute majority. All those in favour? Thank you. Skipping past 9.3.3 onto 9.3.4, the Bailing Up Cycle Park Proposal, Community Feedback and Petition. Councillor Bailey has declared a proximity interest and will leave the room at 3:28 p.m. Now, would councillors like to move the executive recommendation that council notes the result of the community consultation as attached and detailed in this report and confirms its support for the Bailing Up Cycle Playground project, subject to compliance with statutory, land tenure, asset management and accessibility requirements being addressed prior to implementation? Would someone like to move that motion? Councillor Lindemann and Councillor Purick. Councillor Lindemann.
I'd like to move that with the amendment that I have sent in, if you have a copy and are able to.
Yep. So if I read that out, are you happy with that?
Yes, thank you.
On the screen?
Thank you.
Okay. So that'll now read, notes the result of the community consultation as attached and detailed in this report, and that council provides in principle support to the Bailing Up Cycle community playground proposal, subject to confirmation of detailed project costs and securing external grant funding for the project. Now, Councillor Purick, you're happy with that as a seconder? Okay.
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Councillor Lindemann, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, speaking to it was mainly because this came to us from the community and it was put to us with funding, and it just missed having that funding element put into there. And I feel that we haven't looked at the whole plan for the area. We haven't looked at the recent, I guess, demographics. I was reading the Hatch Housing analysis, and in there it talked about the ages and that they were expected to be falling in 2031. So from 0 to 4, 5 to 9 and 10 to 14, the age group was actually going to be falling in Balingup. Now, that doesn't mean that that's correct. It means that we need relevant information. So I guess I'm looking at the whole of community and where our funding goes, and if it's going to be funded, that will be terrific, and that it doesn't necessarily have to fall on the Shire to then pay for something without, that we haven't budgeted for. So that was why I was putting the amendment in, to just be clear that we take it and step it out and make decisions based on the facts.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Purick?
Yep, so I'll speak briefly on Councillor Lindeman's amendment and then the item as a whole. So yes, the amendment is sensible financial practice, and I'm pleased that it was raised to ensure the financial performance of our Shire. The project as a whole, I'm fully supportive of it. I am passionate about place spaces and proactive community work. I've worked in the place space industry, constructed many place spaces on the East Coast, and they can have an incredibly positive effect on communities. Once again, it's fantastic to see such a strong community initiative.
Thank you, Councillor Purick. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? If you're, sorry, Councillor Patrick, would you like to speak for? I have a question. You can have a question.
Thank you. My question is just in relation to, there was a question taken on notice which was replied to, so thank you for that. So there's a residential building right next to where the sort of the revised proposal is. Now, the response that we received was that it's actually zoned commercial, but it is a residential dwelling. Are there, given that it's obviously been approved for a residential dwelling to be there on that land, I'm assuming, are there further approvals required for it to be, inhabited and lived in as a residential dwelling, or the fact that the residential dwelling is now there on site, even though it's a commercial zoning, entitles it to be lived in? Could you please clarify that for me?
Just a moment, Councillor Patrick. I'm just going to get some clarification. I'm just not sure of the relevance. Yeah, it's not come before, that matter hasn't come before council, and I'm just looking for the...
So my question is in
Local
relation
law.
to the fact of whether to
Just a
support
moment,
this.
just a moment.
I'm just trying to clarify where I'm coming
Councillor,
from.
8.8 is relevance, and you need to restrict your remarks to the motion or the amendment under discussion.
So yeah, that's if I can clarify my query around the relevance is in relation to the fact that in looking to approve a playground and the location of that playground, we then potentially in the near future have a residential building and someone living directly adjacent to that land, that space. So it was a clarification around, whether or not it's appropriate to vote to support a playground directly next door to a residential building, which is not a commercial space.
I'll allow that then. Would you like to answer that, Manager Development Services? Michelle.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, so that property next door, that building was approved back in 2013. So to be fair, it was before my time. I presume given it's got a building permit, it would have had development approval as well. It has taken some time for the owner to proceed to finalise that, and they've still got a fair bit to do. There's no septic or anything there yet either. And it is a transportable building, so there is still potential that it could be moved on. But it's not uncommon. I tried to put that in the response to the comment, to the question taken on notice, in that there's lots of commercial zone land, particularly in Balingup, that's actually used for residential purposes. And if you have a look around at other playgrounds in the town site, for example, we've got a lot of pocket parks immediately adjacent to residential land uses as well, if that helps with your consideration. So it's not unusual. But quite the answer to your question is, could it be lived in? Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Patrick, did you want to speak to the motion? No. Okay. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? Okay. Councillor Lindemann, would you like right of reply?
Just that in principle, I am supportive of outdoor activities.
All right, we'll put that to vote, councillors. All those in favour? That's carried. And Councillor Bailey is just re-entering the room at 3:35. Now, moving on to 9.3.5, the Warren Blackwood Climate Alliance Reference Group, or CARG as it's called, membership. This is an absolute majority decision, councillors. Are there any expressions of interest to fill the vacancy within the Warren Blackwood Alliance? No expressions?
I guess my question is, do we need it to be moved first, or?
No, I just wanted
No?
to know if there was anyone
Anyone?
nominating first, because in that,
Okay.
in the existing recommendation, I did a name in there. So if there's anybody that's interested in filling that role, would they like to express their interest now? It may be a moot
If
point.
no one else is putting their hand up?
Councillor Lindemann?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so now that we have your name in ink, would anyone like to move the executive recommendation that Council appoint Councillor Anita Lindemann as the Warren Blackwood Climate Alliance Reference Group member? Now, would someone like to move that motion? Councillor Purick? Appointed gaze. Would someone like to second that? Councillor Hall? Okay, Councillor Purick.
So I would like to move that with an amendment, which is to essentially fill that position in the April OCM after we have gone through the extraordinary election on the 26th of March, to give the two new councillors the opportunity to elect for that.
Thank you, Councillor Purick. Have you got the wording of your amendment there? Yep. I've got here, postpone the appointment.
Yeah, to the effect
Of
to
the
postpone
second.
the appointment of the second CARG member until the April OCM.
Okay. Right then. Councillor Hall, are you happy with that change? Okay.
Yes.
And Councillor Purick, you've spoken. So Councillor Hall, would you like to, sorry. Yes, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, just to echo the sentiments of Councillor Purick, I believe it's a good opportunity for new councillors to get involved in committees, and this gives them that right to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone,
Can I just check on just meeting procedure? Yeah, so my understanding was, councillors, that there was a motion moved and seconded, so moved by Councillor Purick and seconded by Councillor Hall. So that essentially got that motion onto the books. Then I understand that Councillor Purick wished to move an amendment to that motion.
That says alternative.
Yeah, so it's actually an amendment, because you did actually have a motion in front of council.
Yeah.
So then you would need to,
so we should have moved the amendment.
well, there's two ways to do it. There's the way that it seems to be playing out, which is moving the recommendation and getting it seconded, then moving an amendment. The other way to do it is before the recommendation that's contained within the executive recommendation is moved and seconded, would be that just Councillor Purick puts his hand up and says, I'd like to move this motion, which is different from that being recommended by the officers. So we've got a mover and a seconder of the recommendation with Councillor Lindemann's name there. My understanding is procedurally that it's then an amendment to that motion, which is moved by Councillor Purick, and then I understand seconded by Councillor Hall. So then you need to go through the amendment process, and then if that indeed is that the amendment is passed, then that becomes the substantive motion, and your vote on that substantive motion.
Yes, councillor Pirie.
Microphone.
Given that this is substantially different from the original motion, which was to appoint someone, should it not be an alternative motion? The motion is not to appoint someone, the motion is to postpone the decision.
And if that's the ruling of the chair, then you do actually technically have the first motion before council. So the only way you can then bring up that alternate motion is if the first motion fails.
Yep.
It's put to vote and
Okay.
fails.
All right, well, we'll go that way. Thank you for your input, and thank you, CEO, for bringing us back on track. So we have a motion moved by councillor Pirie, seconded by councillor Hall. Would anyone else like to speak? You've spoken, haven't you, councillor Pirie? And councillor Hall, you've spoken. And so would anyone like to speak against the motion? We're
Sure.
getting there.
Although my name has appeared, and I do really support the work of the Climate Change Alliance, I had resigned previously and was really putting my hand up because there were no other people possibly as interested as I am, which is not good enough, I don't think. And I do believe the best thing would be to look at an alternative of postponing and allowing new people to come in and see if this is their passion project.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? We'll put that to, right of reply for councillor Pirie.
No, thank you.
I'll put that to vote. All those in favour? It's failed.
Not passed.
Okay, councillor Pirie, you have an alternative motion.
Yep, I think we all understand, so I move the alternative to postpone there.
And seconded, councillor Hall. Councillor Pirie.
No, nothing to add.
Councillor Hall.
No, nothing. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else like to speak for or against the motion?
Happy to speak for the motion. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for new councillors to get involved. All of us are sitting on committees at the moment, and if no person, I'll have it noted, if no person wants to do it, then I will definitely put my hand up for that. Thank you.
All right then. Thank you, councillor Lindemann. We'll put, if no one else would like to speak, councillor Pirie, do you want to write a reply?
No, thank you.
Okay, well, let's put that to vote. All those in favour? Thank you for your patience, councillors. We got there eventually. Moving on to 9.3.6, sale of lot 5870, South Western Highway, Donnybrook. Councillors, we require an absolute majority decision. An interest having declared by councillors Pirie for indirect financial interest and councillor McNabb for a financial interest. Councillor Pirie is leaving the room at 3:43, and we're placing councillor McNabb on mute. Right. Would councillors like to move the executive recommendation? I won't read it all out. It's been read. Do you get that? Councillor Hall? And seconded by councillor Patrick. Councillor Hall?
Thank you, Madam President. I think this is a great benefit for the Shire and ratepayers to sell this property, allow us to invest that back into the community in multiple ways. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Hall. Councillor Patrick?
Thank you. I would just really like to acknowledge those that have responded from the community as well. Understand that, between social media and formal responses, there's, people have raised concerns around, well, should we be selling properties and assets? I think really good due diligence has gone into reviewing the feasibility of keeping it and as against selling it. And I think from a long-term financial strategy, it makes a lot more sense for that to be sold, for the money to go into reserves. which in turn will lead to, the reduced requirement for increases of rates. Not saying rates won't be increased or will or won't, but moving forward, it'll put the financial sustainability of the Shire in a better position, will help with that. So I think it's a really good strategy. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? And for the motion? Councillor Lindeman?
Yep, I'll speak for the motion. This has been possibly discussed over many, many years, so it's not a quick decision. And it is also, I guess it's our community bank. It belongs to our community, and it is important if they want to, I guess, lay down roots, if you like, in our community. That commitment is there, and I think that's also a benefit.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Hall, right of reply?
No, thanks.
Okay. Councillors, will put that to vote. All in favour? Carried. And we can ask Councillor Purick and Councillor McNabb to come back in. Councillors, that takes us through to item 10, elected member motions, of which we have none, and item 11, new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting, which we have none, and then brings us to item 12, meeting closed to the public. At 12.1, we have a confidential report in accordance with section 5.232C of the Local Government Act 1995, which permits the meeting to be closed to the public for a contract which may be entered into by the local government, by our Shire. So, councillors, would you like to move that we close the meeting to the public? Councillor Hall and Councillor Bailey? All in favour? And the meeting has been closed to the public at 3:47 p.m. At item 12.2, the resolutions that may be made public is that Council has instructed the Chief Executive Officer to allocate funds in the 2025-26 budget for the purchase of a Hino 700 tipper truck, registration number DB4170, with a purchase price of $272,860 and insurance of $197,330 for a changeover price of $75,530. I'll say that again, $75,530 ex GST, which has been funded by savings within the existing 2025-26 plant replacement budget. And subject to point 1 being endorsed, requests the Chief Executive Officer to award RFQ 365, supply of truck to WA Hino Sales and Service for the Hino 700 truck in accordance with their submitted offer. And that brings us to item 13, closure. And I can advise that the next agenda briefing session will be held on the 18th of March 2026 at 3 p.m. in the Shire of Donnybrook Balingup Council Chamber. And I declare the meeting closed at 3:51 p.m.